So ever since I started this channel, I've gotten a lot of questions about working at Google, like what's it like to work there? But I realized that if I were to talk about it from my own experience, it would be a little bit outdated because I was only there up until about 2 years ago. So instead, I decided to interview a friend of mine, Jane Liu, who's currently a software engineer at Google. In this interview, we talked about things like what's it like to work there, her advice on getting a job at companies like Google, and her experience of being a female software engineer in this male-dominated industry. So here's the interview, and I hope you enjoy. All right, so thanks so much for coming here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Let's just get started with, a basic question.
Yeah.
So could you introduce yourself for us?
Yeah. Hi everyone, I'm Jane and I'm a software engineer at Google in the Waterloo-Kitchener office. I've been at Google for a year now and I'm on the cloud healthcare team.
Great. So let's get started with your education.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand that you were in the engineering science program at the University of Toronto, not computer science.
Yeah.
But eventually you got into coding. You got your first coding internship.
Yeah.
So what was that process like?
Yeah, so I guess I'll talk a little bit about what engineering science is about. So this program is kind of like they want to give you 2 years of foundational studies in all sorts of engineering, all different disciplines. And after 2 years, you can pick which option you want to go into. So essentially, you can pick electrical and computer engineering, aerospace, civil engineering, and stuff like that. And for me, after first year, I wasn't completely sure which option I want to pick after 2 years, but I was kind of narrowing down towards electrical and computer engineering. And I wanted to see if I can get an internship just to see how it's actually like working as a software engineer and see if I actually like it and want to pursue it for the rest of my studies. So that's when I started to look around. I was also thinking about moving to California for a little bit. So that's when I started to look at software internship openings in California. It just so happened that someone older in my program told me about engineering practicum program at Google. It's basically a software internship geared towards first and second year students at universities. And I was told that it's not really expected that you have a lot of coding experience or know so many data structures to get into engineering practicum. So that's when I just applied and I wanted to take my chance at it. And I mean, obviously after I got the interview and I spent a lot of time studying for the interviews, but in the end I got it and that was my first engineering internship.
The Google one?
Yeah.
Right. And how did you study?
For me, it was a combination of cracking the coding interview and also just talking to upper years. A lot of people in my program already had a lot of interviewing experience with big companies, so they kind of told me what are the common types of questions and what are usually the data structures and algorithms they would ask you at interviews, especially at interviews with first and second year students, and that's mostly how I got my practice.
Cool. And so eventually you went from just interning there to working there full time, right? Mm-hmm. What was your transition like there?
That's actually a pretty easy process. Usually I would say not just for Google, for a lot of big companies, once you've interned there, especially if you've interned there multiple times, as long as you've done well in your projects, they are most likely to give you a return offer at the end of the internship. So for my case, actually, I actually didn't even need to do additional interviews. I got an offer for a full-time position when I was in fourth year. I did some comparisons between other companies, but in the end, I decided Google is my fit. So that's how I signed the full-time offer at Google.
Nice. And what do you work on as a software developer at Google?
So I'm currently on the cloud healthcare team. It's a pretty new team, so probably not a lot of you have heard of it. Basically, we are building healthcare solutions on Google Cloud Platform. Usually we say Google's mission is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. For us in particular, it's more that we are organizing the world's healthcare information and make it accessible, useful, and most importantly, secure. I can't talk about a lot of the products that we're working on right now, but some of the stuff that we've already made public include a FHIR API, so that's for medical health records, DICOM API, so that's for medical imaging records, and we also have like machine learning solutions for healthcare data and just a lot of stuff around that.
Right, so the idea is using Google Cloud to store medical data or maybe do something with it.
Yeah. So a lot of our mission is about data interoperability and also how to help patients and providers with their experience overall.
Okay. And could you tell us about what your day in the life is like working there?
Yeah. I'm just a software engineer right now, so my day in the life is pretty simple, I would say. So we have free meals at Google, as probably a lot of you know. So I usually go in the morning and have breakfast, and then I also get my morning coffee after that because we also have a barista bar at Google. And then while I drink my coffee, I usually check my emails from last night because sometimes like you run things the day before, you want to just check some updates coming from yesterday. And then after that, in the morning, my team also has a daily stand-up. So during the stand-up, usually everybody gives updates about what they've been working on and what they're planning to do next. And then we usually go to lunch together as a team. And then in the afternoon, that's where the bulk of working time is. So it's mostly coding and then some team meetings or just project updates in general. We also have a lot of like activities at Google, so those are usually towards the end of the afternoon. So we have a lot of tech talks hosted at Google Waterloo, and we also have a weekly TGIAF. Thank God it's almost Friday, hosted towards the end of the afternoon on Thursdays, where the whole office kind of get together and mingle and have some snacks and drinks. And then afterwards, I get dinner at Google. That's my day at Google.
Cool.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you have like a lot of events happening, but when do you actually get stuff done and coding done?
I mean, like as I said, like usually a lot of the time in the afternoon is for you to get your work done, and I would say like everyone at Google is really mindful about how they spend their time at those events. So like for myself, particularly if I'm really, really busy with something, then I would skip those events just so I can get my work done. But then if the progress at work is a little bit slower, then I would look up like, is there any workshops that I want to do or is there anything I want to learn? And that's when I would participate a little more at those things.
Nice. So you've been working there for 1 year, 2 years now?
1 year.
1 year.
Yeah.
So like after working there for 1 year, do you have like any long-term goals there that you want to achieve, like either at Google or maybe somewhere else?
I have to say I haven't really thought about that a lot. I think for me as a pretty junior software developer, I obviously want to spend more time learning different technologies and getting to know our code base better. And then later on, I hope that in a few years, I will be able to, I guess, take projects of bigger scope and design things at a bigger scale. So I guess that will be my short-term goal.
Nice. And what's your favorite part of working at Google?
I would say my favorite part is the culture at Google. I think it probably sounds really cliche to a lot of people, but that's actually one of the big reasons why I picked to go back to Google for full time. I just think in general, everyone at Google is like super respectful and just the whole environment just feels very inclusive to me. I feel like even if you do feel like there's any aggression at work or anything like that, there's like so many channels where you can like voice your concerns and get your help. That's been my personal experience, and that's just something that I really like.
How does it compare working at Google versus working at other companies like Intel?
I don't really have that much experience working at other companies, but as you said, I interned at Intel before, but it was actually Altera when I was there, and then it was acquired by Intel while I was there for the internship. So those two are actually kind of hard to compare because Altera was a pretty hardware focused company. It's an FPGA company, whereas Google is like pretty software centric. So that's one of the differences. I feel like at Google, because everything is focused around software, people like move faster and projects move a little faster because it's just coding, right? But then at companies at Altera, when I was working there, it was more like because a lot of things are centered around their FPGA rollout and stuff like that. Things move a little slower, and then all the softwares have to kind of move around the hardware progress. Another small thing that I also noticed is that I feel like people in the software industry, and also particularly at Google, move around a lot. So then you see a lot of, I guess, young faces, and then a lot of people haven't been at Google for that long. Whereas at Altera, and I would say probably a lot of other hardware companies, people stay there for a lot longer. So you see like really senior people who have been there for a really long time. So they really know what they're doing. They know like the software system inside out and stuff like that. So that's another difference.
And I'm just kind of curious, is there anything you don't like about working at Google?
I have to say there's nothing that would come to my mind right now. I think overall I'm pretty happy with the work environment and projects and everything. I mean, that's why I'm still there, I guess.
All right, the next question is, do you have any advice on getting a software developer job at companies like Google?
Yeah, so I would say my advice would probably be more geared towards people, I guess, in university still, because I haven't been out of university for that long. But I feel like in general, if you want to work at companies like Google after you graduate, you would want to start looking at doing projects and kind of just demonstrate your skills and also learn more things while you're in university. There's obviously a lot of ways that you can do this. You can apply for internships like I did. You can do side projects if you have any ideas. You can also contribute to open source projects. I think that's like a really big thing right now. A lot of people are talking about it. Yeah, and then also just if you have the option to take more software courses, definitely do that, and then try to do well in your course projects. I think all of them will help you land a job at Google after you graduate.
Okay, and one thing that I sort of like hear about a lot, about people working at companies like Google, prestigious companies, is they sometimes have imposter syndromes. Have you had anything like that before?
Yeah, of course. I would say probably there's not that many people who haven't experienced it. For me, I guess in particular, one thing that I always feel is that I feel like I haven't done enough, or I just haven't produced enough results and stuff like that. And I got like super anxious about it, I guess, earlier on when I first joined Google. And then I started to talk to my manager and other people about it. And then they sort of were giving me advice to view my work from a technical perspective. So for example, I can ask other people what they think of my work. I can ask my managers or peers for feedback. And I can also just look at the progress of my project and comparing it to, say, our team objectives or quarterly objectives, and then if you do it that way, then you will have a more objective view of how you're doing in terms of your work. And then for me, that's when I realized, oh, like I'm doing fine, like I'm meeting all the objectives, I'm meeting the deadlines, so I'm doing fine. So right now I'm feeling like less anxious now, and I'm pretty happy about the progress that I'm making. So yeah.
All right, and is there anything you can tell us about your experience of being a female software engineer in this male-dominated industry?
Yeah, so I have to say my experience has been mostly positive. I think I've been really fortunate to, I guess, even for my class in engineering science, everyone was really supportive. And then after I started to do internships and after I started working full-time at Google, I feel like the environment is overall very inclusive and very supportive overall. But I have to say there's definitely small aggressions that I experienced as a female software engineer. So for example, one of the things that I heard that really stuck with me was that when I got my first engineering practicum internship at Google, some of my classmates told me I only got it because I was a girl. At that time, I didn't really think too much of it, but then later on, I felt a little bit hurt about it. But then again, I started to look at my, I guess, progress and skills from a more technical perspective. I know that I've been doing well at Google even when I was an intern, so that was when I kind of shook it off and know that I really deserve this.
Okay, so do you have any advice for other female software developers or maybe other minority groups?
Yeah, so something that really helped me along the way is mentorship. I think it really helps a lot when you know that there's someone there who might have more experience than you in the software industry to give you advice or just tell you that they've been through the same thing when you're going through something difficult. So I would say if you feel like you're, I guess, a more junior member in the industry and you need any sort of advice, you should never hesitate to reach out to the people you look up to or you think might know more than you and ask them what they think and ask them for advice. Just ask them if they can get coffee or something like that. And I would say if you feel like you're a little more senior in the industry or in your class and you might know something that might help other people, I would encourage you to kind of take the time and see if anyone else might need help or just need someone to talk to. I think if everyone could do that, then we would really be able to foster kind of like a really positive feeling of community within the minorities within the software industry.
All right, so this is my last question for you. Do you have any general advice for people who want to get into this field of software engineering?
I would say my advice is pretty similar to what I said about how you can land a job at Google after you graduate. It would be that if you're interested in the software industry, then you should definitely take the time to improve your skills, maybe through going through cracking the coding interview or just learning about data structures and algorithms in general. And then if you want to get some practice, you should definitely take every chance you can get to do some side projects, contribute to open source projects, and if you get internships, definitely do those internships. And yeah, that will be my advice, and good luck.
All right, that's it for this interview. And if you're looking for a software engineer job right now, you should check out the sponsor of this video, TripleByte. TripleByte is, I would say, one of the most prominent and useful websites for getting a software engineer job in either San Francisco, New York, Seattle, or Los Angeles. The way it works is you take their skill assessment quiz once, and once you pass it, you'll be able to start having on-site interviews with a bunch of companies. So basically, it's a way to skip the phone screening phase altogether. And the reason I decided to have them as the sponsor of this video is because, first of all, I already knew about them before they contacted me for this. And secondly, because it's actually something I would personally use if I was looking for a software engineer job right now. And if you want to check them out, please use my referral link, csdojo.io/triple, just to let them know that you guys came from here. And by the way, it's completely free for you guys, for the candidates, because it's only paid for by the companies that hire the candidates. Anyway, thank you as always for watching my videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one.